Hey guys, welcome back to my channel, or if you've never seen me before, then hi, welcome. So in today's video, I'm going to be doing the mid-year book tag. Basically, I'm just going to answer a bunch of questions that have to do with what I've read until now in this year, 2024. Actually, I was supposed to film this and then post this halfway through the year, but I'm a little bit late. Technically June, it's like, you know, the middle of the year. Like I said, a little bit late, but it's okay. It's okay. Better late than never, you know? Okay, so I got these questions from Rachel Catherine's video and Sarah Caroli's as well. And then some of these questions, but like very few, I made them up, so I added some. I'm gonna try to answer these very quickly just so this video isn't like an hour long, because I know I can talk a lot. Let's get into it. Okay, so the first question is, how many books have I read this year? As of now, I've read 46 books. My reading goal for this year, for last year it was 50, and for this year I decided to up it a little bit. So I decided to put 100. Yes, that's my goal for this year, 100 bucks. Like I said, as of now, I've read only 46. So Goodreads tells me that I'm 7 books behind my reading goal, you know, behind schedule. That's stressing. It's kind of making me anxious a little bit just because I would like to complete my reading goal. And I was doing so well, but I don't know why June was a weird reading month for me. I've just been in a weird reading mood lately. I don't know. I know it's me. I know it's not the books. I know I'm the problem. It's me. Hi. I'm the problem. It's me. I know it's not the books I've read. So I don't know what's going on. I hope I can get out of this weird funk sooner than later, and I can just like be back on track for my reading goal to be completed, because like I don't like to put a lot of pressure on myself, and it's okay if I don't complete it. It's just like I like to set goals for myself, and I thought this was a fun goal to do, to complete, to try to do it. But if I don't, it's okay. I would like to push myself a little bit harder, so I know I can do better. I know it's just like this, again, weird funk that I've been in, and I honestly miss that feeling where you just like only want to read. Hopefully I can get back on track, but as of now, I've read 46 books. Okay, so the next question is the best book that I've read so far in 2024. Now, this was hard to only pick one because I've read some pretty good books this year. A lot of them have been 5-star reads, so it was hard to choose from those. But actually, when I did choose one, I was like, yeah, this was a no-brainer. This was actually a very easy choice for me because this book deserves to like be in the spot, you know, which is the best book that I've read so far this year. And that was Funny Story by Emily Henry. Once I chose this book, I was like, it was always gonna be this book, because how could it be not? This was my most anticipated read of the year. I was insanely excited, like words can't even describe how excited I was. If you don't know, okay, Emily Henry's literally my favorite author ever. I could rant about her and her books all day, but I'm not going to. This did not disappoint. I knew Emily Henry wouldn't let me down, of course. I trusted her so much. I knew I could, because this was everything I expected and more. It actually, what's the word, like exceeded my expectations. This just felt like so different from like all her other books, but it was a good different. First of all, it has a very unique premise. This is about Daphne and Miles, okay? And basically they meet and get to know each other because they become roommates. How? Well, Daphne's ex, they were about to get married till one day he realized he was still in love with his childhood best friend.
Message to the smallest man who ever lived.
And that childhood best friend was Miles' ex. Like, what? Daphne moves in with Miles. She had moved in with her ex, and like it was his house, his small town. Like, Miles was the only one she knew other than her ex. They're both in pretty bad places when you start this book, and I think again that's why it's so different. Especially Miles, he's not like any other book boyfriend that I've read about, but again, it was a good different. Like, he was just like so unique, like a breath of fresh air. This book felt like that, but especially the characters. Emily Henry's writing, it's superior. It's, I don't know how she does it, to be honest. Can you hear the ice cream truck? Oh my gosh, great. Anyways, as I was saying, Miles is not like the typical usual book boyfriend you read about, right? Because like I said at the beginning, they're both in like really bad places, so he's not the best version of himself, but it works. It works because you get to go through that journey with them, all the struggles, everything that they've been through, and they figure it out together, they heal together, and it's just like so beautiful. Some of the quotes in this book, oh my gosh, they hit too close to home. Now that I'm entering into my 20s, it's like Emily Henry always gets it. Did a reading vlog for this actually, ranted a lot about it in that reading vlog, so you can watch that if you want to and see my real-time reactions to this book. Have fun with that. This was by far, definitely 100% the best book that I've read so far this year. Then we have the best series that I've read so far in 2024. So I had to pick two. I can pick just like one. I can pick between them. First is The Natural series by Jennifer Lynn Barnes. So this is a YA thriller, and it's basically about a group of teenagers who get recruited for this secret, like hidden FBI program because they all have these natural abilities, these natural gifts. It's all very interesting. I remember reading the first book and just like being really intrigued about every single one of them, not just like their natural gifts or abilities, just like them as characters. That's why I think I really loved this series so much. It's just like the characters, this group and friend group, and no, family. Like they really become a family. Also, it really made me feel a part of their friend group. Yeah, I felt so included, and I really felt like I was a part of them. It made it so much more special. Like it allowed me to connect to them so much. By the end, I was so attached to this series and the characters that it hurt a lot to finish it. Yeah, it still hurts a lot. Actually, talking about this series just opened up a fresh wound. I thought it had healed, but no, it can never. I'm always gonna think about these characters. Actually, this does have a novella like after the last book. Really short, it's a novella. But yeah, I read that on my Kindle, so I don't have it with me physically. In each of these books, like, okay, they solve different crimes, but everything is connected somehow. I'm just gonna say that. It was really satisfying. Like the last book was my favorite one because it all came together. A lot of things happened. All these books are very fast paced, but the last one, oh my gosh. And the plot twist in all these books, like, insane. I love this series so much. I 100% recommend it if you want to read about a series that's like thriller, fast-paced. You're gonna be thrown for a loop. You're not gonna know what's coming at all. Also, if you're a romance girly like me, there is a little bit of romance here. A love triangle. It's got a lot of interesting elements to it. You won't regret reading this series. The next series that I had to mention was the Dreamland Billionaire series by Lauren Asher. This is basically just like a billionaire romance. Each of these books have very different tropes, but in general it's a billionaire romance. This series is about three billionaire brothers who have to complete these very difficult tasks in order to gain their part of the inheritance that was left by their late grandfather. The fine print is also Grumpy Sunshine. Actually, all of these are also Grumpy Sunshine, which is the thing that I loved most about it. Like, this series made me more obsessed with that trope. It's also workplace / co-workers romance, and it's rivals to lovers. But terms and conditions, it's billionaire romance, Grumpy Sunshine, and it's also marriage of convenience, and workplace / co-workers romance. Final offer, it's billionaire romance, it's Grumpy Sunshine, and it's also second chance romance and childhood friends to lovers. Oh, and small town romance as well. Also, basically, Dreamland is Lauren Asher's version of Disneyland. I mean, you probably had that figured out already, but thought I'd say it anyways. I grew so attached to each of these characters. Like, I read these back to back because I couldn't get enough of them. I was so obsessed with the Kane brothers, especially with Rowan Kane. Like, after reading the whole series, he still remains my favorite Kane brother. He's just like what every book girly wants in a boyfriend. Like, the standard, truly. But I loved them all so much, and each of their stories is so special, so beautiful. Also, the girls in all these books, they're my girls. Like, I loved them so much. Also, I love the fact that since it's an interconnected standalone series, in each of these books you get like appearances of like the other Kane brothers, and they like have a family group chat, and like, you know, it's a lot of scenes with them together, and they're all like very funny. So I loved the found family in this as well. Fine Print was my first Lauren Asher book, and I loved her writing so much. Also, because her banter is like so good. So good. It was so good. So yeah, I am dying. It is so hot outside. This is how committed I am to making this video, to filming it for you guys. So you're welcome. Next, best sequel you've read so far in 2024, and that is Practice Makes Perfect by Sarah Adams. Now, technically, this is part of an interconnected standalone series, and it is the second book in that series, so still counts as a sequel. When I read this book, I was like, yep, definitely obsessed, and I just loved the characters in this world, in this fictional small town. I honestly didn't think I would love it this much. Also, just because of the fact that I related so much to the female main character, which is Annie Walker. I saw myself in her in so many ways. And also just because of the male main character, Will Griffin. That man, I can't talk about him because I will start ranting about him. I don't have any words. Speechless. That's what this man does to me. And again, since I related so much to Annie, I was like, I need my Will Griffin. I need to find him. He's out there somewhere. This is about Annie and Will, and again, it's a small town romance. Annie is like this very introverted, bookish girly, and she hasn't had a lot of experience in like dating. You know, her love life is basically non-existent. And enter Will Griffin. So he's a bodyguard, so it's kind of like the bad boy, good girl trope, but really he's just like such a sweetheart inside. He basically becomes her dating coach. So they go on like these little fake dates, they have their dating lessons. Will is helping Annie with that, and it just goes on from there. Oh, also Annie owns this flower shop, and I don't know, she's just like, I loved her vibe so much, and again, could relate to her so much. Again, fell in love with this fictional small town because it reminded me so much of the fictional small town in Gilmore Girls, Stars Hollow. And so many of the characters in this book reminded me of the characters in Gilmore Girls. I don't know if Sarah Adams drew inspiration from that, but appreciate it nevertheless. And this is also dual POV, which I love. Oh, also they gave me so many Delena vibes, so I think that's why I also loved it so much. Just like the passion, the chemistry, it was absolutely insane. Could literally feel it through the pages. That's all I want and ask for. Next question, new release you haven't read yet but want to. Now I do have a lot of books for this question. I have a lot of new releases that I haven't read yet, and it's killing me. Definitely Reckless by Lauren Roberts. If you don't know, this is the sequel or the book that follows Powerless. I read Powerless for the first time this year, also filmed a reading vlog for that, and I became obsessed. Like, how could I not? Lauren Roberts, like, that was her debut novel, and that's actually so insane to me. Like, still, it was just like so good, so good. It was perfect, if not for the ending, but like I knew that it was gonna become a series, so she had to like make that the ending, but it hurt. Didn't mean it didn't. It's actually unbelievable how excited I am to read this book. The next books, I don't have them with me physically, so I'm just gonna list them. So the next new release that I haven't gone to yet, but I want to, is Love Unwritten. So this is part of an interconnected standalone series by Lauren Asher. The first book was Love Redesigned, which I have it right here. It's called the Lakefront Billionaire series. It's also a billionaire romance, which I am so glad about. Also, actually, Lauren Asher made me obsessed with that trope as well. And I'm so excited because I actually read a little bit about him in Love Redesigned. He was the male main character's cousin. This is also a single dad trope, so love that for me. Next, we have The Paradise Problem by Christina Lauren. The only other Christina Lauren book I've read is Love and Other Words, and that's one of my all-time favorite romance books ever. Adore that book with everything I have. I was excited for her new release this year. I was actually watching Larry read. She did a reading vlog for that book, and she said a quote that mentioned Harry Styles, and I was like, you got me, like I'm hooked, like I want to read that book right now. Next is The Novel Love Story by Ashley Poston. The only other book that I've read by her is The 7-Year Slip. I did love that book, not so much actually as so many other people did, because I feel like a lot of people like love that book so much, but I loved it. I don't know, I don't quite think about it like a lot, you know, it's not like a 5-star read for me, but I still loved it and would like to read another book by her. When I read about it, like the premise, it's like really interesting because like all her books have like this magical realism element to them. The general premise, it's basically like the main character somehow ends up in her favorite book's small town or something like that, so she like interacts with the characters and everything, and I love that because like I would love to find myself in the small town of like many of my favorite books. So it's a very unique premise, but I feel like that's the main thing like you'll get in an Ashley Poston book. Like it won't be like any other book you've read. I'm excited to read it. I'm just an ordinary girl. Sometimes I'm lazy, I get bored. Next is The Housemaid is Watching by Freida McFadden. So this is technically the third book in this series. First book was The Housemaid, then The Housemaid's Secret, and now The Housemaid is Watching. Honestly, do I think it needed a third book? No. Will I still read it? Yes. Because I loved the first book. Actually, one of my favorite thrillers ever. It's like at the top right there for sure. It was basically what introduced me to Freida McFadden, and I'm glad about that because I love her writing. Some I love more than others, but still. And The Housemaid like remains one of my favorite of hers. The Housemaid's Secret I didn't love as much. I don't know how much I'm gonna love The Housemaid is Watching, but again, I'm gonna read it anyways. I do know it does follow the same main character, hopefully another side character, but I don't know if it's gonna be the same plot, maybe similar. I don't know. And finally, we have Tangled Up in You by Christina Lauren. It's basically like a, what's that called? Like a reimagining. It has very, very similar elements to Tangled. I mean, Tangled is one of my favorite movies ever. It's actually like my comfort movie. Like, again, it's at the top right there. I adore that movie so much, and so hello, a book that is similar to that movie, gimme. Like, I need it right now. Worst book I've read so far this year, that would have to be It Happened One Summer by Tessa Bailey. I don't know why I read this. I know I read it in a reading vlog, but oh, I went on a blind date with this book, so that makes sense actually, because I don't think, like, if it wouldn't have been for that, I would have never picked it up. Proved me right, because I hated this book. I can't think of anything that I liked about it. The romance was not it for me. I wasn't feeling it at all. It just felt like very physical between them. Like, the characters for me had no chemistry at all, no desire to get to know each other. I didn't connect to them at all, didn't care for them. I don't know if I'm gonna read another Tessa Bailey book. I don't know. Should I give it a chance? Let me know. Next, most anticipated release for the second half of the year. These are releases that haven't come out yet, but I'm really excited to read them. First, The Boyfriend by Frida McFadden. I really don't know anything about it. I just knew I wanted to read it because it was a Frida McFadden book. I don't think I've hated any of her books as of now, because I haven't read them all. So honestly, I'm excited to read this book because I think any Frida McFadden book is honestly worth it to give it a chance. Next, we have Daydream by Hannah Grace. This is, yeah, the third book in this interconnected standalone series. So I read Icebreaker, and then I haven't read Wildfire. I have it with me here physically, but I haven't gone to it yet. But still, I'm very excited to read this book because the main character of that book, obviously it's already been mentioned briefly because it's an interconnected standalone series. So I believe it's, what was his name? Henry. He was mentioned briefly in Icebreaker, and I loved him so much. So I'm really excited to get to know him even more. Then we have Wild Eyes by Elsie Silver. So I recently read Wild Love and I fell in love with it. It was actually my first Elsie Silver book. I had to change location, so I'm sorry about that. Where was I? I knew that she had written the Chestnut Spring series. Like, I have heard about that series so many times and I do want to read it, but I don't know, never got around to it. So Wild Love, decided to read it, I don't know, randomly, and I loved it. I loved her writing and would like to read more books by her. But even more, I think I just fell in love with the characters in Wild Love and like that, again, fictional small town. Wild Eyes is about the male main character is the female main character's brother of Wild Love. So he was like mentioned a lot in Wild Love and I didn't get to know him a lot, and honestly I was focused on Ford Grant, but yeah, I did like him a lot. He was honestly just so funny. It is also a single dad trope, makes me even more excited to read it because, what can I say, I'm a sucker for single dads, like. And finally, we have The Wingman by Stephanie Archer. Now, I've read Behind the Net and then The Fake Out. This is the third book in that interconnected standalone series. And I don't know, it's not a series that I know I'll think about forever, but I still want to continue it. I remember the first book, like I did really like it a lot. And then the second book, I loved it. So we'll see about this third one. And it's a hockey romance. Oh, this is about Hayden. Oh my gosh, okay, so yeah, it was mentioned in the previous two books. I do know a little bit about him, and honestly, I'm excited. I'm really excited. Ooh, it has the roommates trope, friends to lovers. I'm intrigued already. Next, we have Biggest Surprise, Out on a Limb by Hannah Bonham Young. That was a surprise for me because I knew that before I read it, I knew that it had the accidental pregnancy trope, and I'm not a big fan of that trope, not at all. I kind of went into it expecting not to love it, maybe like it, but not love it. But oh my gosh, I love that book. I did. I did not expect to connect to the character so much, and it being such a beautiful story. And even though it had the accidental pregnancy trope, it worked. That book is the exception to that trope. If, you know, you're staying away from that book because it has that trope, trust me, give it a chance. Just give it a chance. I think also what I loved most about that book is the relationship. Like, it was just such a healthy relationship. They communicated so well with each other, and especially, like, again, it being an accidental pregnancy trope, I just felt like they worked through that together so well as a team, and I just loved it. Next, we have Favorite New Author. So first, we have Abby Jimenez. Of course, I had to mention her because Part of Your World was my first book by her, and as you can see, I've been on Abby Jimenez binge. I just, wow, fell in love with her writing. It just reminds me, honestly, a bit of Emily Henry. That emotional connection that the characters have, really good banter. You also get to know the characters like individually. They get to grow in each of these books, overcome their struggles in a really beautiful way. They also feel kind of like rom-com-y, which I love, so I really recommend her. I honestly just had like the best time reading her books, but I'm really excited to read more of her books. I know she has another interconnected standalone series. Definitely we'll get to that. And finally, we have Lauren Asher. So yeah, talked about the Dreamland Billionaire series and the Lakefront Billionaire series. The Fine Print was my first book by her, and again, had to continue with this series because I was obsessed with the characters in that series. I think it also has to do with the fact that her writing was just so good. I loved the banter. I loved the way she writes men. I think she gets it. She definitely gets it. I think I also just like really connected so much to the characters. Like, we had emotional connection, which is, again, all I asked for. It's all I need. and she delivered that. I think also most of her books are like pretty long, but I love that. It didn't bother me at all because it didn't feel like they were over 300 pages long. It's just like, you know, not like most romance books, but again, in my opinion, didn't mind it. Really excited to continue reading the Lakefront Billionaire series, but also I know she has a lot of other series. Like I know she has the Dirty Air series. She has other ones, I'm pretty sure. Oh, she doesn't have another series actually. Oh, well, guess I was wrong. Anyways, so yeah, that series, Dirty Air series, is like based on like F1 car racing. I love the fact that all her series actually, all her worlds are intertwined in some way. And we have newest fictional crush, and that would definitely have to be Jacob Maddox, which is the main character in Yours Truly by Abby Jimenez. I'm obsessed with him still. Like I still think about him. I fell in love with that man instantly. Like first of all, this is dual POV, which I loved because I got to know him even more. So yeah, I mean, he was just like the sweetest ever. Immediately went to my favorite book boyfriends list, but like right at the top. He deserves to be there. Absolutely, he belongs there. That man is the standard. This man wrote love letters to the female character. Like that's how, first of all, he connected with her. Like that's how they got to know each other more and started talking. It's also like a form of apology by something that happened at the beginning, that they didn't get off to the best start. So many of the things he did for Brianna, both of them are dealing with struggles, but Brianna dealt with a lot in this book. Jacob was there for her every single time, and they just understood each other so well. Jacob like really made it his mission to get to know her. I need a man like that. Like he was just absolutely everything. Like he was so caring, so gentle, so loving. Perfection. Like can't say anything else. And I think also just because of the fact that I related to him so much because he has anxiety. I mean, the anxiety representation in this book was absolutely beautiful. Also, I feel like if I would meet this man in real life, I know he's fictional. That's why I'm saying if. And that hurts, okay? That fact hurts me. If I were to meet him in real life, I just know I would trust him with my life. He's the literal definition of in a world of boys. Gentleman. That's all I'll say. Next is a book that made me cry. So I have two for this question. The first is Pack Up the Moon by Kristen Higgins, and then If He Had Been With Me by Laura Nowlin. I think that's how you pronounce her last name. I actually should change cry to sob because like I have other books that I've read this year that have made me cry and like tear up, but these made me sob. Like I was like gasping for air. These two books literally took my heart out of my chest, ripped it actually, threw it across the street and let a truck run over it. That's what it did to me. That's what these two books did to me. I love these two books, but I loved If He Had Been With Me more. I think I just connected to the characters more, and just generally what happened in that book stuck with me more. I still think about those characters in that book, but the two of them were absolutely gut-wrenching to say the least. But sometimes we need to do that. We need to just like sob, let it all out, and that's what I needed in that moment, and these two books did that for me, so that's great. Okay, now for a little mood change, a book that made me happy. So a lot of books that I've read this year made me happy, but I only decided to talk about one, and that is The Rule Book by Sarah Adams. I was just like giggling and kicking my feet all throughout this book. Like there wasn't a time when I was reading this book that I wasn't smiling. Like I was just like so giddy. I loved it so much. I just had a great time reading it. I enjoyed it so much. The vibes, the characters, everything about this book made me so happy. I mean, I did a reading vlog for this one as well. It's supposed to be up already, so you can go watch that if you want to hear me talk about it even more. This is dual POV. It's also sports romance because the guy is a football player, he's in the NFL, and Nora is a sports agent. That's an interesting dynamic, but also just because they actually had met before. They had dated in college, but then Nora broke up with Derek, and they hadn't talked to each other since, until years later, Nora is recruited to be his agent. It's also a second chance romance, but yeah, honestly, it just made me really happy. I loved the banter. It was so good. I loved the fact that they could tease each other so much. They had so much fun with each other. So yeah, I'm excited for this one. Most beautiful book you've bought so far this year or received. So this was actually a late Christmas present for me. So I actually received this in January, and that is the special edition of Love in Other Words. I cannot tell you how happy I was to receive this, how insanely grateful I was, because I had been wanting the special edition for so long. I adore this book with everything I have. I think about them still 24/7. They live rent-free in my mind. Look at this. It's just like so beautiful. I'm gonna take the dust jacket off. So this is the cover. This is the back. And And then look at the inside of it. Oh my gosh. Like, hello, that is the most adorable thing ever. And this is them when they were like obviously younger, because this is a childhood friends to lover story. And I love the color of the hardcover, which is, you know, green. And then right here it says love and other words. Let me wait till it focuses. There we go. And this also includes for a scene Elliot's POV, which was absolutely everything. You can imagine how I felt when I read it. So yeah, of course I had to reread this book when I received this special edition, and that's what I did. Love this book so much. Next question is most disappointing read of the year, and that was definitely Happily Never After by Lynn Painter. This was such a bummer because I was so excited to read this book. I love Lynn Painter. I love her book. She's like the queen of rom-com-y YA books. But I think that's why I didn't love this book so much, was because of the fact that this is adult romance, because this felt like it had more physical connection than I usually want in a book. I think it had a great start, but then it completely went downhill. It just felt like very physical between them, nothing else, and I was very disappointed. And honestly, I didn't love this book. I didn't hate it, but I didn't love it. Also, it is even more disappointing because it did have a lot of potential. Like, the premise was really interesting, but I just think the general plot of it, I think, could have been explored way more. Next, what books do I want to reread this year? So first, I wanted to reread every Emily Henry book, especially for summer, because like all her books have a very summery vibe to them. I already reread Book Lovers, but I have to reread the rest of them, which is Beach Read, Happy Place, and People We Meet on Vacation. So I'm not sure if I want to reread Funny Story because I just read that. But yeah, I just wanted to do that. Definitely want to do that before this year is over. And then the Harry Potter books. So I'm actually going on a trip this year to Universal. So I wanted to reread all the Harry Potter books before I went to that trip, and then also rewatch all the movies. So yeah, we'll see how that goes. I have so many books that I want to get through and read that to read that whole series, I just need to take some time, set apart some time to, what am I doing? I don't know. I haven't had that time yet, but I want to do it definitely. And the trip is in October, so something that I want to do. So hopefully I can do it. We'll see. Next, we have how many 5-star reads this year. So technically 9, but if I'm not counting my rereads, which are Book Lovers and Love and Other Words, then technically 7 5-star reads that I read for the first time this year. First, Yours Truly by Abby Jimenez. I mean, definitely a 5-star read. Like, I had no doubt about it, and can confirm it even now that like I still think about the book and the characters. Next 5-star read was Bad Blood. I already talked about that series, but I think that series in general is a 5-star series for me. This book specifically was the only one that I rated 5 stars. The rest are 4.5 or 4, like really close. And I think, again, just has to do with the fact that this was the book that like everything came to an end, which is like sad and heartbreaking because I was devastated to end this series, to not read about these characters anymore. It was most action-packed. It was very thrilling, fast-paced. A lot happened in this book because, again, everything was setting up for this book, right? A lot of things happened in the previous books that had to be solved in this book. I love the fact that every loose end tied up together really nicely. It was a very satisfying ending. So then Funny Story, again, talked about this book already. Of course it was a 5-star read for me. Of course. How could it not be a 5-star read? Emily Henry, first of all, but also just like this book, like, come on, deserving of a 5-star rating. Then Powerless. I know how it ended, but still it was a 5-star read for me because I couldn't stop thinking about this book weeks after I read it, months after I read it, even now still. Connected so much to the characters so fast. Like, that was surprising for me, and this honestly exceeded my expectations because it's a very popular book. So I was like, people are hyping it up too much, like, we'll see. But oh my gosh, as they should. Like, I get it. And we have Practice Makes Perfect by Sarah Adams. I knew it was a 5-star read. Had that feeling, no doubt about it. And finally, we have The Fine Print and The Final Offer, which is part of the same interconnected standalone series. Like I said, the Dreamland Billionaire series. And I feel kind of bad because like Terms and Conditions is the one that's being left out right now, but that was close for it to be a 5-star read. It didn't quite get there, okay? But these two definitely did. Next, we have books I've been putting off. So I have 2 books for this question. If Only I Had Told Her and Normal People. This is technically the sequel that follows If He Had Been With Me, but it's not technically a sequel. It's just like, it has other POVs. So I've been putting it off, honestly, because I don't know if I want to put myself through that again. I know it's going to be as gut-wrenching, maybe even more, because it's from the male main character's POV, Finn's POV. I know it's going to shatter my heart to pieces. So I don't know if I have the energy to pick those pieces up, you know, once again. So yeah, I know I have to be in the right mood for it. And then Normal People by Sally Rooney. I have been putting this book off because, funny enough, I have been picking this book like as one of the books on my monthly TBR for like, what, 3 straight months, and I haven't gone around to it because honestly it kind of intimidates me. Like, it's a very popular book and a lot of people have mixed opinions about it. I haven't read any of her books, and I think specifically this one, or I don't know if all her books are like that, but people say like you just have to get used to her writing, like you either love it or hate it. But I do want to get to it, okay? I do want to read it. Next we have a book you enjoyed with mixed reviews. I decided to choose The Teacher by Frederick McFadden. Yeah, that pretty much had mixed reviews in my opinion. I think a lot of people, it was also a new release. Was it a new release? Yeah. Oh my gosh. She has released 3 books this year. Happy for her. That's great. Anyways, when this came out in February, yeah, people were talking about it and a lot of them were mixed opinions, but honestly I enjoyed it. I'm on the side that's like, you know, this was a really good book. I'm on that side. I think it had a really good plot twist. I did not see it coming at all, but I don't think it was like predictable at all. Many people said it was, but I didn't think so. It was very fast paced for me. I just enjoyed it, okay? It's not a book that I'll think about forever. It was a good palate cleanser. It did what it had to do for me, but it had mixed reviews, so it fits for this question. That's it. I'm gonna move on. Ooh, okay, then we have 5-star predictions for the rest of the year. Just to repeat some of the books that I've mentioned already, but I just think they'll be 5-star reads for me. So the first one is Love Unwritten by Lauren Asher. Love Redesigned wasn't quite a 5-star read for me, but I think Love Unwritten could be. And we have Reckless, of course. I mean, I think I'm 99.9% sure that will be a 5-star read for me. And then Wild Eyes. Again, Wild Love wasn't quite a 5-star read for me, but it was very close. So Wild Eyes could be. Hi, so I'm editing the video and I realized that I forgot to mention a book for this question. It's insane that I forgot it. Don't ask me how or why, because it's actually one of my most anticipated book releases for the year, and I do think it could be a 5-star read, and that is Nothing Like the Movies by Lane Painter. So this is a sequel that follows better than the movies, which I absolutely loved. It is one of the cutest books that I have ever read. Wes Bennett has my heart. I'm so excited to read it, and again, I don't know how I forgot it. So I just wanted to do an honorable mention. Okay, back to the video. Then we have, do you think you'll reach your reading goal? Are you gonna change it? I honestly think, even though I'm behind schedule right now, I do think I'm gonna get back on track. I believe in myself, and I do think I could complete it. I don't think I'm gonna change it. I think even if I don't complete it, you know, it'll just be like, hey, that's that. You know, I don't think I'm gonna change it, like lower it so I could complete my reading goal. I think I'm gonna stick to 100 books. I'm gonna really try my hardest to complete it, and I think I will. And finally, any new goals for the rest of the year? So I have a couple. Keep growing on all social media platforms. I really want to continue focusing on YouTube, keep putting out content for you guys, content that you hopefully love and enjoy. And again, as well on TikTok and Instagram, because apart from my personal Instagram, I also just recently created a bookstagram, so I'm really excited to keep growing that. Okay, and then also listen to more audiobooks. I have listened to some audiobooks this year, not as much as I wanted to at the beginning of the year. Hopefully I can do more of that before this year ends. And finally, I wrote Get Out of My Comfort Zone because I do want to read before this year ends books that are out of my comfort zone. It's a change of pace and I want to put myself out there. That includes like reading memoirs or just like genres that I don't usually read, maybe that intimidate me or again are just like out of my comfort zone. And that's it, guys. That means we've reached the end of this video. Hope you enjoyed it. I hope it wasn't too long. Again, I know I talk a lot, and thank you so much for watching, of course. So if you stuck to the end, I love you so much. Subscribe if you haven't yet, and I guess that's all I have to say. See you guys in my next video. Bye. Reality of doing a video like this